Hi everyone, and welcome to today's PSHCE lesson. This is lesson 3 on health and well-being, and it's safety first is our focus. So this is safety when we're out and about. That means outside in the wider environment. So the aim is to know how to stay safe when you're outside. How you're going to achieve that is to know the dangers that you might encounter, that you can list the things that we have in place to keep us safe in the local environment, and how you might advise other people on staying safe in unfamiliar, that's places you don't know. So I want you to stop in a minute and consider, what are the dangers when you're out and about? Pause now and have a think. And I want you to now think about, how can we stay safe in unfamiliar places? That's places that we don't know. Pause now and have a think. So what's it all about? Well, outside, basically, we can encounter many different hazards or dangers. These dangers can be very different to what we might encounter, let's say, if we're in the house, okay? The sort of things that you bump into whilst you're outside are very different to the things that you might bump into whilst you're inside a building. In particular, roads, railways, and around water. So, what do you think it means to be road smart? Pause now and have a think. Right, so basically, what we need to do, the first step is to understand what the dangers of the road might be. The second step then is to make sure that we know what the rules of the road are. That's mainly the Green Cross Code. And then finally, we need to know everything that we can do to stay safe near or on the road. So what are the dangers of using the road? Pause now and have a think. Right, so it's always important to remember that all vehicles can be dangerous, whether we're inside them or walking near to them. Even the safest drivers can make mistakes. They might not be able to stop suddenly, and that could be because it's getting dark and they didn't see you. It could be that it was icy or slippy on the road, but you've always got to remember that cars cannot simply just stop where they are. They do have braking distances, and that is weather dependent, as well as the driver's concentration and their own reaction speed dependent too. So what rules should we keep to make sure that we stay safe when we're on or near the road? Well, first of all, when you're in the car, you have to wear a seatbelt, and depending on your height, you'll need to wear special seats or booster seats, as we call them. It is also against the law for drivers to be on their phone. So they have to use hands-free. You cannot have the phone in your hand and using it whilst you're driving a car. There's several reasons for that, but the main ones is it's about having your attention looking through the windscreen as opposed to what's on the screen of your phone. It's about making sure that your hands are on the wheel as well if you need to be able to do something quickly. Now, if you use YouTube and go to the Mo Show, Mo Explores Road Safety, if you pull up that video, then Mo will talk you through it. I did try to record this with the video in it, but it didn't work, so my apologies. So being road smart. Everyone should use a pedestrian crossing to be able to cross a road, if at all possible. Children should cross a road with an adult. And when you're crossing a road, please make sure that you walk and not run. That's just in case you trip and fall over. It's easier to see you when you're walking, apart from otherwise, if you're laid on the floor, it's far more difficult for a driver to see. If something goes on the road, such as a football, do not go after it. You wait and see, you stand at the side of the road, wait and see what traffic's coming before you go and safely retrieve your ball. So what can we do to keep ourselves safe when using the road? We've all got a responsibility to keep ourselves safe when we're near roads or when we're in vehicles. So we need to act responsibly and stay alert. We need to concentrate when we're actually crossing the road. So that means that you're looking for traffic in both directions, you're not talking to your friend, that you cross the road straight, not in a zigzag line or backwards or running or going off a diagonal. You just go from one side of the pavement to the pavement on the other side of the road in a straight line, in the shortest possible distance. So, other things that we can do. We need to check for traffic the whole time, using your eyes and your ears. The eyes matter as well, not just listening to it, because electric cars these days are very quiet. So, we need to choose safe places to cross the road. So don't start crossing roads from behind parked cars. It's very difficult for anybody driving to be able to see you about to cross a road. So you need to be in open space so that they can see you and you can see them. Or better still, use a pedestrian crossing. And when you get in a vehicle, the first thing you should do is put your seatbelt on and try not to distract the driver. So being water aware. Now, when you go into the environment, you'll encounter water all over the place. That could be you going down to the local swimming pool, but it also might be that it's the local river or the local stream or the local reservoir, lake, pond. Okay, water comes in all sorts of forms in all different places. So the things that you have to be aware of when you're near when you're near sources of water. Now, learning to swim is the most obvious way to stay safe. Okay, some people do find this trickier than others. So if you're at a swimming pool, make sure that you can put your feet down on the ground using armbands, floats, or other aids to keep you there. I.e., if you can't swim, don't disappear off and jump in at the deep end and then wonder why you're sinking. Stay at the shallow end to the point where you can still safely put your feet down. So swimming pools can be a safe place to swim, as there are lifeguards there to keep us safe. Always follow the safety rules. Do not run around the pool. It can be very slippy. Only dive in where a sign state that it's safe to do so, because if you dive in at the shallow end, you might end up smashing your head into the bottom of the pool. Now, swimming in more open areas of water, such as the sea or in lakes or reservoirs or whatever else it might be, is always a bit dicey. People do it, but there are an awful lot more dangers to it. So if you're going to go out and swim and paddle in the sea, make sure you do it somewhere, preferably where there are lifeguards on duty. So if you get into any problems, there's somebody there to help you out. Always stay within your depth. That means don't go out far too far where you can't put your feet down. But don't go out so far where your head's just bobbing above the water when your feet are down. The sea is a very powerful thing, and there are a lot of currents underneath the surface of the water that can easily drag you out to sea. It's very powerful. So stay relatively shallow, no higher than your knees, really, and you should be safe from there. But make sure if there's any rules at the beach, make sure you follow them, please. Also, if the weather is particularly bad or the waves are particularly big, try to avoid going into the sea in the first place. So other bodies of water such as rivers, lakes, canals, ponds, reservoirs are generally not best for swimming. And there are lots of reasons for this. One of them is the fact that the water is often quite dirty and you can pick up all sorts of diseases and bacteria from swimming in them. But if you take, for example, things like lakes, there could be all sorts of pond weeding there that you could get tangled up in and find it difficult to swim out of. Things like reservoirs. I mean, try to avoid going into reservoirs at all. They're very deep and they're incredibly cold. So on hot days, people have a tendency to jump into things like reservoirs. The problem is it can cause the body to go into shock because of the coldness of the water. And even strong swimmers can find it incredibly difficult to find their way out of the water because their body just simply stops working. So you're best off avoiding places like that in the first place. Always follow rules on warning safety signs that you see around. Stay out of fast-flowing water. Even if it's relatively shallow, the water is still very powerful. Stay out of it because all it has to do is knock you off your feet, and it can be very difficult then to pick yourself back up. Get out of the water if it's too cold or if you feel too cold. Always wear a life jacket if you're able to do so, or if you're doing a water-based activity such as canoeing or sailing. Rail safety. Now, railways can be seen all over the place. You see them in Bolton, you see them in other towns around and about. Okay, but there are many dangers associated with the railways, and some of these can't always be seen. So if I just go back to that, these are a couple of YouTube clips. If you type those into the search on YouTube, you'll be able to find them. Again, I tried to record this with them in, but it simply just didn't work. So my apologies again. So, be rail safe. Many railways use electricity carried through overhead power lines, underground power cables, or conductor rails to power the trains. It's never safe to touch any of these, and it could also be dangerous to fly objects or dangle things from bridges that could touch these lines too. Things like flying might be kites and things like that. Electricity is extremely powerful, as you know from your science lessons. Touching or getting too close to these power lines can be fatal. It can kill you. If you're using level crossings, they're the best place. They're the only real places where you should be crossing a railway line. That and footbridges. Level crossings work in specific ways. If the barriers are closed and alarm sounds or the red lights are flashing, do not ever attempt to cross the line. Once the train has passed, you need to wait for the red lights to stop and for the alarm to stop before you cross. Always walk, do not run, and if you're on a bike, get off it and push it. Other things, it's important to stay safe at train stations. The platforms have got yellow lines in them. You need to stand behind those yellow lines. That puts a safe distance between you and the trains entering the railway station. If you drop something on the track, never go and get it. Just inform a member of staff and they'll do what they can for you from there. When entering or exiting the train, there can be a large gap between the train and the platform, so make sure you step over it and take extra care. Make sure you're looking at that gap. If the train doors are controlled by staff at the front and rear of the trains, they open and close automatically. So never put anything in the way, including your hands, arms, legs, or any other parts of your body. So remember, we can be road smart, water aware, and rail safe by understanding the dangers that they present, knowing what the rules we need to follow, and taking responsibility for keeping ourselves and hopefully other people safe too. Top tips: there may be other hazards that you come across. These could include fireworks, extreme weather, animals, getting lost, strangers. There are many, many others, and I'm sure that you can think of more. So, I'm going to skip through these bits. Now, what I want you to do is to have a look at these keywords, because what you're going to be doing is you are going to be making a poster. Now, you're only going to make the one poster, so it's either going to be on rail safe or water safe or road safe. So you might want to pause this now and pick out some of the keywords you might decide to use in your poster. So pause now and choose your words. Right, so what we're going to do is, the idea of this poster is to make sure that other people are aware of how to stay safe around these environments too. So you need to make it eye-catching, but you also make it simple and easy for people to follow. So you're going to create this poster using keywords. The stencils for each of them, you only have to do one. So choose either roads, either rail, or either water. If you really want to do all three, by all means, please do. But you can include pictures, include keywords, include phrases, instructions for people what they should do and what they shouldn't do, okay? Just make it as useful as possible, but make sure that you've got safety statements in there. So, for example, never play on railway lines, or it would be never swim in reservoirs on hot days, those kind of things. These are your different posters there. Again, like I said, you only need to choose one of them. Good luck. I look forward to seeing what you've done. Thank you. Bye-bye.